And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. That is right, it is time for Coffee Talk, and that is Coffee Talk Live, broadcasting, podcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday on YouTube. And you can find me on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That is at Coffee Talk Chat and or is it at Coffee Talk Live, I got it mixed up, and at Prepper University on YouTube, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you care to join me there, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And it is Monday, and it is time to talk about what is going on in the world today and taking a look at some of the craziness in the news and having a little bit of discussion in the live portion with people that have chosen to join us here today. And I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable, and I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in on the live. I see Helter is here, the Unknown Nose is here, Dragon is here, Brian is here, says sorry about the absence. That's okay, life happens, Brian. I get it. Rodney is here from New Zealand, says it's 0600 hours there. Youch. Holly is here as we get ready to roll into it. And for those of you who did not see, if you had not caught wind of it yet, I put up a fresh video on Coffee Talk today talking about the electric vehicle lie, the big lie surrounding the concept of electric vehicles and how we've been misled, drawing on the short that I had done just recently about gas stations, as well as some discussion that we've had on the podcast in the past over what off and on damn near a year of fleets of electric school buses, transit buses, and even electric snowplow trucks, if that makes any sense to anyone, that have been mothballed across the country because the damn things don't work or they're too expensive to maintain or repair. And there's so much that can be unpacked with that. And I did put a video up about that earlier today. If anybody has not caught wind of it, please do check that out if you get the chance, because the whole system is a lie. The EV vehicles, they don't work the way that they've been promised, and they put a product out there, forced us to accept it, and billions in tax dollars have been dumped into these programs for something that's untried and untested. We're the guinea pigs. We're the guinea pigs for this, for something that doesn't work. Usually if you have a product, you test and test and test and work all the bugs out, and once you got it going the way it's supposed to, then you introduce it into the market. That's not what happened with EV vehicles. It's not what's happened. And so they're trying to force things in, primarily because they're trying to enforce an agenda, which opens up another can of worms into power consumption in the United States and indeed the rest of the Western world, which I will be doing another discussion on soon. I'll do that as another independent video as well. I see Fluke Man has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Picking up where we left off on Friday, I had brought something to the discussion from the news that it was just a blurb in the news at the time, but now it's big news. Yesterday and today, it's blowing up in the media, and that is George Soros's connection or involvement with the protests that are going on the college campuses and universities across the United States. And Nature Nerd says $7,000 subsidies with EVs. It ain't enough. It's not enough. You need more, because, man, they are expensive to maintain, and they're not efficient. They're not efficient. But New York Post article, it pointed out now suddenly it's leaking into the news because they can't keep covering it up They can't keep covering it up for all the good that it does for everybody to know about this. But you see the headline there. Soros and other elites are funding the campus agitators, stoking anti-Israel and anti-Semitic protests. Getting into the article, no one familiar with the state of modern academia can be much surprised by the wave of anti-Israel tent city occupation sweeping U.S. campuses, but that doesn't make them 100% organic, which is what I've been alluding to the entire time. These things didn't happen by accident. It wasn't random. Students didn't decide to just go there. They were coaxed or paid to do it. And the discovery that lefty philanthropists are funding student protest leaders may just be the tip of the iceberg. And again, if you didn't see it Friday, I covered that in great detail at the time because it was fresh news then. It wasn't really circulating. Encampments at Harvard, Yale, UC, Berkeley, Ohio State, and Emory in Georgia, and a lot more than that, were organized by branches of Students for Justice in Palatine, which gets cash directly and indirectly from Soros family charities, as well as the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and retired Wall Street banker Felice Gelman. Gelman and Soros also give to Jewish Voice for Peace and Within Our Lifetime, two more groups intimately involved in the protests. And just like with what's going on in the Middle East with the current executive branch of our own White House, the Biden administration, as it were, funding both sides of this and creating turmoil, because the Biden administration, of course, is funneling money to not just Israel, but to Iran as well, and has been for some time. Iran getting the lion's share of that, believe it. So it says U.S. CPR community and college fellows earn stipends of $2,880 to $7,800 for work organizing campaigns to demand cutting ties to Israel. And what's not being explained here, though, and it came out in the article I read Friday, was that's per 8 hours of work. So you could basically from $2,800 to $7,800 a week for a minimum of 8 hours, paid to the leadership behind these protests, with the intention, because the literature from that leadership expressly calls on them to incite revolution, which should be treason. It should be treason. And in sharp contrast, when you look at something like Trump and the trials that are going on, and they're saying, Trump having hush money is a threat to our democracy, so-called democracy, as it were. Compared to this is a threat to your so-called democracy. And he's been doing it for years and getting away with it and not getting challenged. His hands must go deep into pockets. It's incredible. And by the way, don't think that getting rid of Soros would put an end to it. This is a Hydra situation. You can't just cut the head off the snake to kill the snake. This snake is a Hydra. If you cut the head off, there's another one waiting. There's another one waiting to grow back. And I know the Hydra will grow two heads if you cut one off, but I'm just saying. Though most of the campus occupiers are themselves plenty privileged, the charitable giving helps explain why demonstrators get to protest in style, sleeping in Amazon ordered tents, enjoying delivery pizza, coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, free sandwiches from Pret a manager, organic tortilla chips, and $10 rotisserie chickens. Must be nice. Hell, maybe I should be out there protesting. Chip tips may come from other sources. At least one expert suspects foreign assistance. No shit. Funding and influence. That's what started all of this. Is again, brought it up several times, that during the Trump administration, the colleges and universities in the United States were under investigation to track down where undisclosed funding was coming from to the colleges, because they were taking money from Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, China, you name it, Qatar. They were getting money from all over the place, Lebanon. but didn't want to disclose it. Why? Because the colleges and universities knew that it was wrong. Trump was trying to expose it, and Biden shut that down. Shut it down. Now it's been brought up again because what was once a $5 billion worth during the Trump administration is now $8 billion funneled into these colleges and universities, and you can see the outcome: total disruption of our culture and structure. It says, of course, any progressive protest, especially in a college town or major city, is likely to attract plenty of careerist lefties who hang out near campuses for years or even decades after graduation or dropping out, even with real jobs. Okay. And that was part of the argument, and this is part of the reason why, and I'll get to the comments here in a moment. This is part of the reason why it is that now there's a heavy crackdown on it out of nowhere for the last week. They've been, the colleges and universities have been cracking down heavily on these protests, and riot police have been coming in and doing mass arrests. And even University of Georgia, not University of Georgia, but Emory University in Georgia, and also in another university in California, they had to resort to rubber bullets and tear gas to clear people when they discovered that the majority of these people camping on their campuses and protesting and tearing up didn't even attend those universities. It's like, what the hell are you doing here? Get off our property. And that's basically what sparked it. Rodney says the transition is still a bit choppy. Just the video or audio also. Cruising says, how is this not terrorism? But the Proud Boys are. Yeah, exactly. And there's all your arguments. Obsolete Professor said Jordan Peterson said he stopped protesters by having his lectures at 7 a.m. Notice that these protests didn't start until the weather got warm. Yeah, I know. It's riot season. Riot season is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Nature Nerd says democracies are fine as long as my guy is in power, says every political party in the world. And Unknown Nose says they have long hair and they could walk into a protest unhindered. Possibly. Rodney says even over here in New Zealand, universities are just communist indoctrination centers. And that's what it's looking like now. That's what it's looking like now. It looks like you're wasting your time going to university, sending your children to university, a waste of time and money and effort. You know what? Thinking about this here, you know how all these people, they graduate with these worthless degrees and then they never pay their student loans, and they want the federal government to pay off their student loans for them, which basically means taxpayers have to pay my student loan for my worthless degree that I never got a job in that field anyways. And they cry and cry and cry for it. Oh, I got ripped off. I want the government to pay for my degree. You ever heard anybody from a trade school needing financial assistance to pay off their student loans? You know why? Because they work and their certificates are viable. That's why. That's why. I haven't heard anybody who went to trade schools. It's always these milk-soppy, sickening, like worthless degrees. Degree in hip-hop studies from the University of who gives a shit. There are actually degrees in hip-hop studies. That's why I say that. Some of the traditional black colleges have them, as well as trap music. You don't want to go to college and study trap music. You're not going to play trap music. You just want to study it. And Brian says trade school is useful, college is stupid. Yeah, well, it is now. You know, it used to be very prominent. Higher education, it meant something. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore, as they've lowered their standards time and again and been infiltrated, allowed themselves to be infiltrated for the sake of increasing income to the school and making all kinds of political side deals. No college or university. And I've said this about a number of things. I've said it about judges, that I don't believe judges should have political affiliation, for example. I don't think colleges or universities should express political affiliation either. Judges, unions, and institutions of learning should not have political affiliations. I don't think they should be allowed to, because there's too much of an opportunity for negative influence as the money starts pouring in. Too much of an opportunity. I don't trust it. But speaking of not being trusted, and while we're on the subject of protests, guys, still trying to work some of the Daily Mail article. You'll get a kick out of this one. U of W, pro-Palestinian group, nixed planned encampment because there was too many white people. Pro-Palestinian students at the University of Washington announced their plans to postpone what was supposed to be Thursday's Gaza solidarity encampment. You want to have a Gaza solidarity encampment? Go and camp in the Middle East. Quote, because too many white students were involved. Oh, man. White people mess up everything. I tell you what. The Pacific Northwest had been criticized for failing to include enough Muslim and Arab students in the planning of the encampment. Maybe they don't have a lot of them. Maybe there aren't a lot of Muslim and Arabic students at the University of Washington. Anybody think of that? Or maybe the Arab and Muslim students don't want to be involved, especially if they're foreign students. You think they want to risk getting deported? You think they want to stir mess up? And some of them might have to go home at some point. The disruptive demonstration was scheduled to go up Thursday morning at the Seattle University, where the administration told members of the Jewish community they did not plan to intervene unless the event escalates and threatens life safety, according to My Northwest. I think that's interesting when they say that they intended for it to be a disruptive demonstration. That's right here. This is the college talking, or the university talking. It was a disruptive demonstration that was scheduled to go up on Thursday morning at the Seattle University. And they told students that they weren't going to intervene unless the event escalated to a threat to life and safety. So you knew they were going to tear up. Just as well you didn't do it. Without a significant threat from those at the head of the institution, students opted to delay the protest in order to make sure this encampment is a better reflection of the University of Washington community and having even greater unity with Muslim, Palestinian, and Arab students. But if you don't have any, they can't come. I mean, where's the logic here? I wonder how much of the student body at University of Washington is non-white. Let's just start there. Never mind Arabic or Muslim. Quote, we want to be part of a much larger coalition of groups, and make no mistake, we will have a UW encampment. We want to make sure everyone's voice is included, and this action is as safe, secure, and as strong as possible. A post to the school's Progressive Student Union's Instagram read. And here's your update. This was the post. After long discussions, we have had to make the hard decision to postpone our actions for several days. We apologize to the community. The decision to postpone was made to build unity. You're building unity by excluding people. That's the opposite of building unity. Commenters claiming to be students harshly criticized the PSU. How do you know they're not students? For its failure to effectively organize the protest and recruit enough Muslim and Arab students into the effort, according to the notoriously white and liberal Seattle area. If it's notoriously white and liberal, well, if it's majority white, you don't don't have a lot of Arab and Muslim students. Again, it's just logic. I really hope you make sure to take proper security precautions this time and learn what operational security without prioritizing security for all the students involved. The action is hollow and reckless. Okay, I don't care about these people's comments. I just wanted to get to the point. The Columbia encampment launched last week in New York City has sparked similar demonstrations at college campuses across the country, including those at Yale, Boston, and Michigan universities, blah, blah, blah. So basically, a pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Washington, by white liberals, at a school with majority, I'm assuming, white liberals, couldn't get Muslim and Arabic people to give a shit, and decided to shut it down. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's the liberal mindset for you, I imagine. And I'll take a look at the comments here really quickly. Am I getting my comments through? Unknown No says, I tried attending a trade school when I was young. I had to choose bills over classes, but I paid my loan off 100% by myself. And there you go. And there you go. If you have a worthless degree, you will earn nothing. If you have a good degree, you may earn a useful living. But I just thought that was hilarious. Just the logic there, or the lack thereof. We can't find enough Muslim and Arabic students, and we want to be more inclusive. Maybe they can just ship them in from somewhere else. You know what the problem was? They were looking for students, and all the other universities had people from everywhere else. Again, that's what sparked the mass evictions of these people that were in these encampments, was when the universities found out the majority of them weren't even from the universities. That was all the excuse they needed to start clearing them out. An Unknown No says, couldn't sell enough riot tickets, so they canceled the riot. Indeed. Or maybe they didn't get their Soros check. You know, maybe that's what happened. They didn't get their Soros check, so they were like, nah, we're just going to cancel this one. Show me the money. Pass and throw rocks and bricks and start fires and throw trash everywhere. I expect to be paid. Where's my check? I want cash. Oh, no, I want cash. Forget the check. Fluke Man says, maybe American Muslims don't want people from Palestine. Like you said in other podcasts, not all Muslims like each other. No, they don't. They don't. They don't get along at all in the Middle East. I doubt they would get along in groups here either, unless something was keeping them stable. Something was keeping them stable enough. And Juan is here. He says, greetings from Delaware. It's an election year and no signs are up. No Biden, no Trump. People here are tired of the BS. Well, they're holding local elections out here, and there's signs everywhere for all kinds of people that you never heard of vying for government bureaucratic jobs locally that you didn't know existed. That you're like, what the hell do we need a commissioner for this and that for? So there's that kind of election going on right now out here, but whatever. And Unknown No says that's happened before. Paid protesters have been underpaid or never paid in past events. I love it. Yeah, that's what set them up, make them think they're going to get a check and screw them. That's what you do. And Nature Nerd says, funny picturing George Soros paying protesters minimum wage. How about getting a normal job that helps society? No, because that's the hustle. What did they say in the movie Mo Money? A job ain't nothing but work. That's right. You got to get your hustle on. Do the least amount to get the most, even if the most isn't that much. And oh, I had that up and I crashed it by accident. Let me get that open again. Watch now; it'll act funny. No, that transition wasn't too bad. As we're gonna shift into digging our heels into Zuckerman. or Zuckerberg, excuse me, Zuckerberg, and Facebook and Meta, and how he screwed that up again. Daily Mail article: Meta loses $200 billion in value in hours after Facebook owner warns it will invest more than expected in AI, with expenses for 2024 as high as $40 billion. That's right. And I'll read the article and I'll tell you what I think happened here, because I have seen something about this. So here we go. The metaverse is Zuckerberg's much derived virtual reality world that exists online and is viewed through the company's headsets and glasses. It has not been a hit with consumers or businesses. He was speaking to analysts and investors after the Facebook owner released its earnings for the first 3 months of the year. Profits were up, but the higher than expected spending and warnings it will make less money than expected from advertising in the second quarter from April to June caused the sell-off. Caused the sell-off. People did the stock. Shares of Meta have surged 116% over the last 12 months and more than 45% year to date. That had catapulted boss Mark Zuckerberg to number 3 in the Bloomberg richest. Before the earnings, shares were $493, but were as low as $407 in after hours, with investors concerned by signs that expenditure was creeping back up. That hit Zuckerberg's wealth, which before the earnings report stood at $166 billion. It is thought to have fallen more than $20 billion in value. The social media firm posted revenues of £29.2 billion. Now they're switching from dollars to pounds in the middle of this. Did AI write this article? For the 3 months to the end of March, up 27% from the year before. This is the fastest rate of growth since the third quarter of 2021 for Meta. Owns Instagram and WhatsApp, as well as Facebook. Profits more than doubled to £10 billion from $4.6 billion the year before. And they're speculating here that the reason that it suddenly bailed is because he said that they're going to dump more money into Meta, and nobody wants that. So people started dumping the stock, because even though stock was still climbing, if they're going to invest another $40 billion in a system that isn't working, it's a money pit, and that made a lot of investors nervous. Additionally, anybody here who is using Facebook, you probably noticed this, that last week at around this same time, they got rid of the normal search engine and replaced it with Meta. So now, instead of being able to search on Facebook, you're opening up a Meta function, an AI function, and cannot do a regular search. And attempts by people to disable that have failed. You're supposed to be able to disable it by going in and you click silence, and it asks you how long do you want this function silenced. And you have a list of choices, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, until I say otherwise is the final choice on that list, I believe. And even if you click that, the Meta will replace the search engine again within a few hours. So a lot of people are very put off by that. They don't like it. It's invasive and it's buggy. And even if you open it by accident and change your mind and close it, it'll start sending you messages to your Facebook message page asking you what you wanted. Hi, I saw you were trying to contact me. What do you need? Nobody was trying to contact you, Meta. Piss off. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. It's invasive. So basically, they've made Facebook more invasive and pledged to waste more money in invasive programs that nobody likes or wants. So yeah, naturally, people wanted to dump the stock because that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good. I'll catch up a couple of comments. Monkey says Metaverse is the biggest waste of money, making characters look like Nintendo Wii characters without legs. Is that what they look like? And it says VR chat, on the other hand, blows the Metaverse way out of the water and can do much more things. And what time is it? 30 minutes and 1 second in, I am live. I have just now received my live notification from YouTube letting me know that I'm live 30 minutes and 1 second into the broadcast. Thank you, YouTube, for making sure people knew I was on. Nature Nerd says, according to Anime's AI would only make people use it if there was a good video game fantasy world, and meta isn't fun. That's why it's not taking off. And Boogers is here. Glad you could make it. Says he's late and is going to start over. Yeah, I can't start from the beginning, but it will be saved. It will be saved, so you can always go back. Anybody who missed anything can always go back to the beginning and watch it all again. They can watch it all again in case they missed something. And Raccoon is here and says they did not get the notification. Yeah, see? There you go. Like I said, I just got mine. Unfortunately, that doesn't surprise me because that's primarily how ScrewTube has been doing it. And Spectre said they got the notification, but the video only started 15 minutes ago. Okay. And Rodney made a donation to the channel. He says, here's a few pennies for the cause. I appreciate it. Very much appreciated, Rodney. Any and all the help I can get, always appreciated, and goes a long way towards helping the felines. Here's Miss Kitty. Hi, Miss Kitty. How you doing? Well, you don't see her too often because she doesn't like being where the other cats are. And Daniel is here, sitting in the chair behind me, if nobody noticed. Actually, he's sleeping in the chair behind me. And then one more here from Fluke Man, and we'll get to the next article. He says, never mind, I'm sure he'll still live a life of luxury even if it goes bankrupt. The amount of cash, gold, jewelry, and etc. hidden under his floorboards and secret properties would easily finance a tiny country, I'm sure. Well, you know, he has a huge doomsday bunker. I'm sure some of you might have seen that Zuckerberg has a massive bunker. So he's ready. You may not be, but he is. As we get corruption, say it isn't so. Stand. Los Angeles Magazine, top official for LA District Attorney George Gascon, hit with 11 felony counts. Oh no. Oh no, another big lawmaker in trouble for breaking the law. They're supposed to be above the law. Doesn't anybody understand this? They're above the law. They're lawmakers. The Assistant District Attorney of Ethics and Integrity Operations. Oh, I love that. Let's read that title again. The Assistant District Attorney of Ethics and Integrity Operations for embattled Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon was hit with criminal charges for illegally spying on Los Angeles sheriff's deputies using state computers. Oh no. Diana Teran was a former constitutional policing advisor. Listen to that title. Who are these people? This is the kind of crap I'm talking about. Where do these bureaucratic titles come from? Again, it's voting out here is going on right now. They're setting up for voting locally. Signs all over the place, and I'm reading the titles of these people, and I'm like, who are these people? What the hell job is this? Doesn't make any sense. Some bullshit made-up bureaucratic job where somebody is paid a fortune in tax dollars to shine a seat with their ass all day and play Angry Birds and look at porn. Oh my God. Anyways, where are we? Gave her access to personal files for deputies, which she is accused of downloading in 2018. She then used those illegally accessed files, Bonita says, while working as a special advisor to Gallon. According to the criminal complaint, Tehran accessed private data on 11 unnamed deputies without permission, made copies that she later used in her role as prosecutor. Tehran has worked in police oversight since 2018. Oh, see, that's another oversight committee. This is another person whose job is ethics. First for the LA Sheriff's Department, then as a consultant to the Office of Inspector General in 2019. She became a law enforcement accountability advisor with the LA County Public Defense Office. How can you trust anybody when the people that are in charge of oversight and accountability are the most dishonest ones? Basically, and if anybody who doesn't understand what's going on here, I'll spell it out really quick. They had hacked into and were spying on the computers of sheriff's deputies to get insider information for prosecution purposes at the district attorney's office, which is illegal. And any case that was overseen by these people through the district attorney's office in court should now be reinvestigated. And it won't be. It won't be, because they obtained information that they should not have had access to at that time. And that corrupts the evidence. Really, those cases ought to be thrown out. But, I've seen this sort of thing before. It won't happen. They're not going to even investigate any of those cases. I'm willing to bet on it. No one is above the law, Bonita said in a statement. Apparently they are. Public officials are called to serve the people and the state of California with integrity and honesty. At the California Department of Justice, we will continue to fight for the people of California and hold those who break the law accountable. The criminal charges against the high-ranking prosecutor are closely aligned to Gascon's law enforcement accountability agenda and has led to criticism from his opponent in the upcoming election from the top cop spot, or for the top cop spot. He's still in public office, and this is going on. He's being brought into court on 11 counts, 11 felony charges, but he's still running for office. You gotta love it. You've got to love it. Nature Nerd says Hawaii, Zuckerberg's top secret compound, which has guards and high security. Okay. I don't know where it was. I just knew he had one. Cruising says administration is the biggest bloat in all things, especially the HR departments. Nature Nerd says the leftists are creating their own priest of ethics like a religion that controls society and workers' lives. It's not right. Illegal to break into a police's database. Yes, which is essentially what happened here. Again, so that they could get insider information on cases that they were seeking to prosecute in court through the district attorney's office, which is a violation of the rights of the person that's under investigation under the law. So yeah, 11, and it's 11 felony counts because it's 11 deputies, but those counts from those or on behalf of those deputies could balloon into hundreds of other counts, depending upon how far they dig. So, okay, you violated the ethics and the rights of these 11 unnamed deputies, but then what you did with that information could balloon into additional counts, and they should. And I just think it's hilarious that these people are the people who their bureaucratic legal positions are ethics and oversight. Again, who do you trust? Who the hell do you trust when the people that are supposed to be conducting oversight on everyone else sometimes turn out to be the most dishonest ones? That's scary. That's some scary shite, as they would say in the UK. That's some scary shite. Oh my. Oh my. And one more here, and we'll crank into the next article. Unknown Knows says, I knew someone who worked at a police department who used the computer to look up an ex, unemployed fast. And this was in the 90s. Yeah. Nothing that isn't related to a case that isn't authorized. And that those protections are there for a reason, to keep the law enforcement from being too invasive and too heavy-handed. Fat lot of good it's doing. And we're going to take a look at the man everybody loves to hate. Donald Trump trying to debunk something that he said. And you know I love fact checking the fact checkers, and that's what we're going to do here. Trump and allies say Biden pays rent for illegals in Michigan. Fact check, not true. Not true. So let me try to get this open. Trump is hoping to ride anger over a surge in undocumented immigrants to victory in the presidential race this fall. The number of undocumented since President Biden took office is certainly large, at least 5 million people. That number is not correct, and we all know it. It's a lot more than that, Washington Post. But Trump can't resist pumping up the numbers or making false claims. We've previously documented that there is no evidence that many are coming from jails or mental institutions. Now both Trump and MAGA Incorporated, a super PAC that backs him, claim that Biden is backing a Michigan program that they say provides rent to undocumented immigrants. That's also false. All right. So what exactly did Trump say? Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Cheung did not respond to a query, but MAGA Inc. spokesman Alex Pfeffer, in an exchange of texts, laid out the Rube Goldberg method by which Trump and his allies have tried to pin this on Biden. The federal government, through the Office of Refugee Resettlement and the unit of the Department of Health and Human Services, has long provided hundreds of millions of dollars a year to states and non-governmental organizations to help refugees transition to life in the United States. The Office of Global Michigan supports such efforts in the state, and in October launched the newcomer rental subsidy program. Under this initiative, for up to 12 months, individuals who qualify may receive up as much as $500 a month rental subsidies. Okay, that's the accusation. This is true. Okay, this is true. And the Washington Post, excuse me, says that it's false. Says this is false because, according to the state, it says the state says it will not consider any application. Hold still. Sorry, it jumped. And I got to catch my spot again. Here we go. The state says it will not consider any application with a pending defensive asylum hearing. That means the United States has begun removal proceedings against a migrant, and he or she requested asylum as a defense against removal because, for instance, they claim fear of prosecution or torture in their home country. Most of those cases are not successful for the migrant, according to data maintained by the TRAC, or Transitional Records Access Clearinghouse at Syracuse University. People with asylum claims who are not facing a defensive hearing have already gone through enough scrutiny that odds are their asylum applications ultimately will be approved. Okay, so they're saying that it's false that the federal government helps to proxy fund a Michigan program to provide rental assistance for migrants, because migrants who are under investigation would not be eligible. But what about the ones who are not under investigation? Well, guess what? They're eligible. So what they did was they cherry-picked a line out of the structure of the law and showcased that to declare this false. It's not entirely false. May not entirely be true, because there are certain requirements, but that's the art of equivocation right there. And I bet you more people are being helped than not. And Max Mueller has joined us, as well as Cyberjack Sr. Glad you could make it. And Rodney quotes undocumented immigrants. The Democrats use 1984 as a playbook as opposed to a warning. No kidding. because I hate that undocumented immigrants or undocumented citizens, right? That's another one that I've heard. And it's like, no, they're illegal aliens. They entered the country illegally, and we're paying for it. We're paying for it. Nature Nerd says the immigration problem could get a lot better if the U.S. followed the Monroe Doctrine again and we focused on our own hemisphere. And Rodney says that ScrewTube has been automatically deleting their comments criticizing the current U.S. administration. Really? I shouldn't be surprised, because that's an unfortunate reality of what goes on ScrewTube a lot of the time. They do police the comments, and it gets weird. And it's a bot. It's AI, so it doesn't always understand the context of what you're talking about anyways. But then so much for free speech, right? Fluke Man says, just read a Business Insider article. U.S. has bought 81 Soviet-era fighter jets for $2.26 million. Surely not. They're junk. I don't know why they would buy them. But yeah, that's true. Apparently that's true. I don't have that pulled up, but I did read that. But I don't know why we would buy surplus jets unless we're going to give them away to somebody. And it's at 2.26 million or billion. But that's a bargain, even just for the parts. But I don't know why we bought them or what that's about, really. But I can look for that article later on. Here's something I wanted to share, and I wanted to question this a little bit. I had done a short a while back. Okay. Is this going to work? Yeah, let me pause this. Showing that I thought it was unusual how it is that in the modern era, if you go to like the adult diaper section, as it were, if you go to HBA, health and beauty aids, in your Walmart, supermarket, wherever you are, that a lot of, or really all, the adult diapers picture young men and women, people that are in their 20s and 30s. And I'm like, why this trend? Why this trend? And there's a lot to unpack with that. There's a lot of discussion that you could have. And I've talked about this before. People are weaker now. Medications, vaccinations, a lot of arguments can be made. You know, if you're on a lot of medications, you can have a lot of trouble with your bladder, because it's always been the norm that this would be advertised to much older people that you would expect to possibly have bladder control problems. And the argument that I got from some people is like, well, it's because of the stigma of that, and, you know, younger people who are perfectly healthy. And I'm like, somebody said this, you're not perfectly healthy if you wet your pants and you're like 31 years old, okay? But it reduces the stigma. If I bought a package of diapers and it had a picture of someone that looked like me on it, I think I'd be more embarrassed than if I bought one with an old person on it. And then maybe if I was worried anybody even thought to look at me sideways, they figure I was buying it for grandma. Never mind the fact you can have that stuff delivered. Also, equally as weird is something else I've noticed, and I wanted to share this commercial. This is a commercial ad. Okay, read it. All right, for Good Nights. This is for Good Nights. And Good Nights, of course, are pull-ups. And you think pull-ups, you think toddlers who are just getting off of potty training or whatever, because it said the diaper is not meant to be pulled off easily. The Good Nights, they can pull them up and down in case they have an accident, whatever. The kids in this ad and the kids that I've seen on pull-up packaging look way too old And I'll go ahead and I'll play this for you real quick. You can look at it. Look how old these kids are. What is this boy, 12? I mean, look at these kids. They're way too old to be having bladder leaking problems unless something's medically wrong with them, in my opinion. If they have a medical problem, I can understand. Why are we normalizing the idea of kids that are way too old to be having bladder leakage problems or trouble controlling their bowels? Why are we normalizing this? When I was growing up, it was almost unheard of for anybody over the age of, say, 2 to be having accidents unless they were like sick or there was something medically wrong with them. Now this is normal. You can't convince me that this makes any sense unless something has happened biologically to an entire generation of people that are growing up that has caused this problem. Never mind the laziness of the parents, not properly training these kids or working with them. Yeah, Tokay, or Taki, potty trained at 2, really, question mark. Yes. If you were old enough to walk around, you were old enough to get started. And I know people don't have photo albums anymore. Okay. 2, maybe 3 at the most, maybe still having a couple of accidents. But some of you who are older, maybe you could chime in on this. The way that they would do this, the way that it worked, is that you'd have the kid pantsless in the house. They'd just be naked from the waist down so that when they felt the urge, they could run to their potty chair without having to take anything off or ask for help. After about a week or 2 of that's pretty much wrapped up. They rarely would have an accident after that. I can't imagine, again, unless there's a major psychological problem of some kind of illness, or they've been weakened by something like medications that they're taking, perhaps. There's no excuse for someone that old having accidents. But yeah, maybe someone who's older can chime in on this and explain that, because that's what we grew up with. They made you they just keep your pants off in the house. And yeah, you'd run to your chair and do your business real quick. If you were old enough to run around, you were old enough to get on that chair and start crapping yourself. And Nature Nerd says Biden's building a $300 million railroad in Zimbabwe also to secure battery materials, copper, and to counteract China and Africa. Yeah, more of our tax dollars getting wasted. Rodney says weird, so many companies and government organizations trying to normalize so much weird stuff, and it is creepy. It is. There's something very wrong with that. And usually changes like that in physical attributes en masse are connected to some drastic change in diet or environment or something else related to that. And I've given this example before. I wrote a paper in college, when I went to college back in Bedrock with Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble, that I wrote a paper on corn syrup, and that obesity in the United States, obesity, heart disease, type 1 and 2 diabetes, were almost unheard of in the United States until a period within 2 years of corn syrup being introduced into our food supply. When they started putting corn syrup in all the food and beverages back in the early 70s, that's when, again, obesity, heart disease, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure started becoming epidemics in the US. Prior to that, we didn't have those problems. So you can make a correlation. You can connect the dots there and say, okay, wait, you introduced a new food source. Suddenly everybody's fat and having health problems. Even though the corn syrup industry has made has paid scientists for decades to say it's safe. The same scientists who used to say cigarette smoking was safe, and to the point, as a matter of fact, that they used to prescribe cigarettes. I pointed out myself that my mother was told by her doctor to smoke menthols back when they believed it was good for you, or we were told it was. And during that time period, the sugar industry protested heavily, saying, no, look, suddenly a lot of people are having heart attacks. Suddenly a lot of people are getting diabetes. Suddenly there's obesity problems. It's because of the damn corn syrup. And sugar and corn syrup butted heads for a long time in advertising and then just faded away. And now it's like it never happened. Catching up a couple of comments here. Raccoon says it's probably all the crap they put in the vaccines when they're babies. Yeah, that could be. I wonder when they started messing with the vaxes, there was no autism in my generation. It was really rare. Yeah. And now it's all over the place. And they've jumped because they went from hyperactive disorder, which is what they used to call it, to autism to, oh, no, I'm sorry, I skipped one. It was hyperactive to ADHD to autism to now this autism spectrum bullshit, which literally everybody could fall into that spectrum to one degree or another. Anyone who took that test could probably fall into that spectrum. And when you were hyper when you were a kid, back when they called it hyperactivity in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they just found the kid a hobby. His attention span isn't focused. Give him something to do. Guess what? That worked. Then when they started giving it official labels and trying to prescribe medications for it, that's when they screwed everybody up. And Unknown Nose says they still blame non-corn sugars. Yeah, of course they do, because they want to keep selling all that corn syrup. That's their bread and butter. And Tokay says, hey, whatever works. Yeah, no kidding. I don't know how many people would do that nowadays, but that's what we used to do as far as like potty training. Nature Nerd says diapers have tech in now, which changes colors to blue if the baby has an accident. Only downside is probably makes people use diapers longer than the past and for parents to get lazy. Yeah, if they weren't so contained, you'd have to change them more often. So it kind of gives you an excuse to neglect your kid. Think about that. It's like, oh, the diaper will hold it. Don't worry. It can handle some more. I don't want to have to keep buying these. You can get like four or five loads in there before I have to change it. Oh my God. Yeah. And Fluke Man says America has corn syrup and everything. I know most of the foods do. And Prime Mover says, is there a safe cereal with no additives? I've been trying to find one. I don't know. I mean, some of the organic cereals look pretty good. You just got to read the labels and pick something that has the least amount of ingredients and hopefully no corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup. And Prime Mover wants a kiddie show and tell. Well, Daniel is here. And Brian says when Burger King and McDonald's spawned in every town in America. Yeah. Yeah, that is. Daniel, you want to say hi to anybody? Daniel's knocked out, but I can pick him up for a minute if anybody really wants to see him. But I just am curious about a lot of things like that. I think about a lot of that kind of stuff, how they're trying to normalize younger and younger people wearing pull-ups and adult diapers now. And why is that a thing? Why is that needed? Why have we got people in their 20s with bladder leakage problems and bladder control problems, and which I have actually witnessed. My wife and I were in a is it Sherwin Williams recently? Sherwin Williams, the paint supply store, and a woman in there wet her pants, and she couldn't have been 30. She wet her pants sitting in the chair and got up and left while she was waiting for whatever. And I'm like, do you see that? She just wet herself. And that's the second time in maybe a year and a half I've witnessed something like that out in the open. Both times it was a woman. I don't know if there's any connection to that. Here, I'll show you, Daniel. Come here, Daniel. Hi, buddy. Can I borrow you? I'll put you back in the chair. Let everybody see you for a second. There's Daniel. Hey, buddy. Daniel, everybody. He's a sweetheart. He really is. Very, very well-behaved animal. All right, Daniel, I got to put you back because I got to sign off. Because with that, we are at the top of the hour. We're actually just a hair over. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find me on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University if you wanted to join the live portion at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks to Rodney, who made a donation to the channel. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way, especially helping all the felines that we take care of as we have our little impromptu shelter going. And with that, I will go ahead and sign off, and we will catch you